Hello there, how are you? Welcome back, Mr. Mash here. So today we are going to talk about utility, and this has to do with consumer behavior. So this section is on consumer behavior, why consumers make certain decisions and how they make these consumption decisions. All right, so let's get right into it. Utility basically refers to satisfaction. So if you hear economists talk about utility, they are really just talking about satisfaction. And satisfaction is, are you happy with something or are you not happy with something? That's what satisfaction is all about. They take two approaches in analyzing the satisfaction consumers get from consumption. The first approach they take is called the Cardinal approach. And the Cardinal approach to utility assumes that satisfaction can be measured. You can assign a value to utility. Okay, you can measure. Utility can be measured. Utility can be measured. That's the Cardinal approach to utility. And then there is also an ordinal approach to utility. And then ordinal approach, this word ordinal comes from the word order. When you put order, when you put things in order, you are arranging them in a uniform way. So what this approach says is that satisfaction can be ranked. You can order your satisfaction or you can rank your satisfaction. Okay. When you're ranking, you're saying you prefer something more than the other thing. You can actually say, I enjoyed swimming more than I enjoyed running. You're ordering your preferences. These are the two approaches that we are going to take into account when we consider utility. The Cardinal approach, where we say utility can be measured, and the ordinal approach, where we say you can rank your satisfaction. You can rank your preferences. All right. So when we analyze utility or satisfaction, an important concept. So this utility can be measured, and the unit of measurement for utility is going to be utils. So we're going to use the utils to measure utility, right? We're going to use the utils to measure utility. Okay, and so the total utility, usually you're going to be given this total utility. That is the total satisfaction that you get. And then the marginal utility. This word marginal is not new to you guys. Marginal, when we talk about the margin, the impact of an additional unit, we are analyzing the behavior at the margin. So the marginal utility of a consumer would then be given by the change in total utility divided by the change in the quantity that is consumed. So how much more satisfaction in utils does the person get when they consume an extra unit of a product? What is the additional satisfaction a consumer is going to get when they consume one more unit of a product? So that's the change in total utility divided by the change in the quantity that the person is consuming. That is the marginal utility. So this stands for marginal utility. All right. So this marginal utility is said to be diminishing. We assume diminishing marginal utility. What does that mean? So this basically means that the total utility for a consumer, the total utility is going to be increasing. So the total utility, the more you consume, your utility is going to increase. So the total utility increases, but the rate of increase of the total utility is decreasing. So the total utility increases at a decreasing rate. The total utility increases at a decreasing rate. All right. Let me show you a quick example on what I mean by this. All right. Let's assume you have bars of chocolate. You have 6 bars of chocolate. Let me say 6 bars of chocolate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then for these 6 bars, you can measure. We assume that you can measure your satisfaction. So when you consume the 1 bar of chocolate, if you only have 1 bar, you are going to get a satisfaction of 50. If you have 2 bars, you get 200. If you consume the 3rd bar, now you've consumed more chocolate, you're going to get a satisfaction of 140 utils. 4 bars, you're going to get a satisfaction of 170. 5 bars, you get a satisfaction of 190. And 6 bars, you get a satisfaction of 180. So you see, the total utility is going to increase, right? Now, what happens to the change in your satisfaction when you consume 1 more unit of the product? What happens to your utility? So here, remember, the marginal utility, you divide the change in total utility over change in quantity. Take note, in this instance, we are just increasing our consumption by 1 bar. So this change is 1, this change in 1. So always the change in quantity in our instance is going to be 1. All right. And then the change in total utility is 100 minus the previous one. In this instance, the first one 50, you started from 0, so this will be 50. Then 100 minus 50, this is 50. Then 140 minus 100, this is 40. 170 minus 140, this is 30. We are dividing these numbers by 1. 190 minus 170, this is 20. Okay, and then 180 minus 190, this should be minus 10. The total utility, yes, it's increasing. The total utility is increasing, but the rate of increase is going down. Started at 50, then it went down to 40, then it went down to 30, then it went down to 20, until it became negative. This is a case of disutility. So you get to a point where the chocolate that you're consuming doesn't satisfy you anymore. You feel bloated. You don't want that chocolate anymore. And then you might end up throwing up. You don't want it. That's where the negative change in utility is going to come from. Okay, so this is a case of disutility. Think about it. If you have $10, if someone gives you $100, you're probably going to be so happy you got $100, right? But if someone has $1 million, they're not going to be happy as you if they get an extra $100. So the more you have, and the more of that product you get, the additional satisfaction you get from that product is actually going to go down. That is the case of diminishing marginal utility. All right. Now, to calculate the consumer equilibrium, I'm going to give you an example just now, but there's a few things to note on how does the consumer decide on the bundle that the consumer actually consumes. So let's talk about the consumer equilibrium. All right. So I'm going to show you this example, but basically the consumer equilibrium is determined by what we call the Equi-Marginal Principle. Okay, this is determined by the Equi-Marginal Principle. And this Equi-Marginal Principle, basically what it says is that a consumer will be able to distribute their income such that their weighted marginal utilities are the same. The weighted marginal utility is calculated as the marginal utility over the price of each product. All right. So the satisfaction that the person gets by spending their last cent or the last unit of money that they have is going to be the same for the different products that the person is consuming. It is given by this relationship. Regardless of how many products you have, the Equi-Marginal Principle can be given by this, where you have the marginal utility of product A, for example, over the price of product A should be equal to the marginal utility of product B over the price of B. If you have Z number of products, it goes all the way up to the marginal utility of product Z over the price of product Z. So this is the Equi-Marginal Principle, all right? So this is the Equi-Marginal Principle based on the last product that the person consumes and the price, all right? So we are assuming 2 products. In our case, we are going to assume that this person has a combination of apples and bananas, A and B. All right, the person has apples and bananas. Those are the 2 products the consumer wants to consume. All right. And for that particular case, we are told that the price of apples, the price of apples is equal to, I'm going to use the rand as the currency here, 1 rand for each apple. The bananas, the price of each banana is equal to 2 rand. Rand is a South African currency. And the income that you have to spend on these two is 13 rand. Okay, so to get the total that you spend, if you're spending 13 rand, you have to multiply the price of the apple times the quantity of apples, which is A. I'll use A to represent quantity of apples, plus the price of bananas times the quantity of bananas. This must equal the money you have. You are constrained by the 13 rand. So whatever combination you get must not exceed 13 rand. This is what we call the budget constraint. So this is the income. The price of a product times the quantity plus the price of the other product times the quantity must equal the income. In our case, the income is 13. So A plus 2B, the price of bananas, should be equal to 13. Okay, that will then be our budget constraint, whatever combination we get. And to get the equilibrium, remember, the Equi-Marginal Principle states that at the margin, the weighted marginal utility must be the same for the apples and for the bananas. We are going to do this. Now, given the graph here, the table here, we want to first calculate the marginal utility, right? And you see, let me use a different color. You see from this table here that you're given 50, 75, 95, but the quantities are increasing by 1. We divide by the change in quantity, but our change in quantity is 1. Dividing by 1 doesn't change the number. So the marginal utility, the first one is 50 here. We always start with the first number. And then the second one is 75 minus 50. You must get 25. The third one is 95 minus 75. You must get 20. 109 minus 95. You must get 14. 119 minus 109, you must get 10. And 122 minus 119, you must get 3. All right. Then you divide by the price of your apples, which is 1 rand. So it's 50 over 1, which is 50. 25 over 1, 25. 20 divided by 1, which is 20. 14 divided by 1, 14. 10 divided by 1, 10. 3 divided by 1, 3. We do the same thing on this side for the bananas. 52 minus, so we start with 52, and then 52 minus 92, we must get 40. And then 120 minus 92, we must get 28. Then 140 minus 120, we must get 20. 154 minus 140, we should get 14. And then 164 minus 154, we must get 10 here. The price of bananas is 2. So we divide 52, we divide this 52 over 2. We divide by the price. And then when we divide by 2, we should get 26. And then 40 over 2, we must get 20. 28 over 2, we must get 14. 20 over 2, we must get 10. 14 over 2, we must get 7. 10 over 2, we must get 5. We now look at the points at which this condition is satisfied. All right, let's look at the point at which this condition is satisfied. Let me do this. So, looking at this diagram, do we have a 50 here? There's no 50 here. 25, there's no 25 here. 20, yes. There's a 20 here. And there's a 20 here. So for this 20, it aligns with 3 quantities of apples. So we have 3 apples and how many bananas? The bananas are going to be 2. 2 bananas. Okay, so that's one combination. Let's see if there are others. This color blue might be a challenge for some of you. Let me change the color. Let me try yellow. All right. And then let's go to 14. There's a 14 here. And there's a 14 here. For 14, we see there is 4 here. So it's 4 apples. And there is 3 here. And 3 bananas. Let's see if there's another one. You see there's 10 here and there's 10 here. So in that case, we have 5. So we have 5 apples and how many bananas? 4. And 4 bananas. We now test to see if we can afford. And we want to see the point at which we use most or all of our income. The first one, 3 apples. It's going to be 3 apples times the price of apples, which is equals to 1, plus 2 bananas, 2 times the price of bananas, which is equals to 2, then 4 plus 3, that is equals to 7. So this is quite low. It's far away from 13. We try another one, the second one. 4 apples, which is 4 times 1, plus 3 bananas, 3 times 2. 6 plus 4, which is equal to 10, also less than 13. Let's go to the last one. 5 apples, 5 times 1, plus 4 bananas, 4 times 2. 8 plus 5, it's 13. So we spend all our income. This becomes our equilibrium. So our equilibrium is going to be 5 apples and 4 bananas. 5 apples and 4 bananas. That's how you get the equilibrium. It's the point where the marginal utility, weighted marginal utility, is the same for the apples and the bananas. In this case, it's 10 here, it's 10 there. You must check for the budget constraint to see if you are using all of your income. If it exceeds your income, then it's not the one. You go to the previous one. It should not exceed 13 because you do not have that money. You are constrained in that regard. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Whenever you feel like you're getting lost, pause, go back, and make sure you understand what is going on. And what I want you guys to do for the next section, I want you guys to go and check the equation of a straight line. I'm sure you remember the equation of a straight line is y is equals to mx plus c. What is your c? What is your m? What is your x? What is your y? And then we are going to use this equation of a straight line to deal with that budget constraint I told you about. Remember, our budget constraint was the price of apples plus the bananas, which was equals to 13. And generally speaking, is the price of a product times the quantity of that product plus the price of the other product times the quantity of that product should be equal to income. We are going to use the properties of the straight line to deal with this. So please go look at this, do a bit of revision on demand and supply, and then until then, I want you guys to enjoy economics. Mr. Mash is out. Cheers.